Deadrock is back, and we start off actually in the human world, in a church, in a small town that is praying to their god, Selt, for rain. It seems that this small town has been suffering from a drought for years, and their crops haven't been growing, and basically starvation has been an issue. But now it's gotten to a point where, because there's no rain, now their drinking water is running out. And so they're just desperately praying to their god. That's when the story's version of God, the underworld god, appears before them and says he will grant their desire for rain. And he does. He creates rain. People are cheering. They're happy. They run outside to celebrate. And then he makes giant pillars of rain that crush all the buildings and kill all the people. So he wiped out the entire town. And he reveals something that I suspected in my previous reviews, which is he killed the other god. This god Selt was a real god. He was a god of harvest. He was the one who actually did bring the rain, so most likely when this dude killed him, basically the rain stopped, and so the harvest stopped, and so this town began to die. But yeah, I suspected that from chapter 1 when I said that it didn't make sense that this guy was calling himself God when he's the lord of the underworld. So I predicted that he was just an evil god who killed all the other gods and then reigned supreme over all three realms. And it seems my intuition from chapter 1 was right. We go back to the underworld, to the school, and there, class F is currently having their lesson in botany. Of course, this is a school in the underworld, so their botany class is about learning about poisonous plants. It seems to be a mixed bag. Half them are listening, the other half don't give a shit, that kind of thing. Yakuto is actually very focused on the lesson and even asked if you can use this poison to kill God. The answer is obviously no. You can't use poison to kill a god. That's ridiculous. After the class ends, they're all basically just talking together, doing their thing. That's when Friar asked, what is that thing on Ryzen's head? And it turns out it's just a talisman meant to stop his body from rotting because he's currently a zombie. Makoto basically reminds Ryer that he's basically her slave now because if she dies, her magic disappears and then he dies. So he's basically fucked. Because I 100% guarantee she is going to betray everyone at the end of the story. That just seems like the kind of person she is in the end. That's when the entirety of Class D show up. Apparently, the octopus and shark were members of their class, and so now they're here for revenge. So basically, it's a Class D versus Class F kind of scenario. And the head of the class seems to be some dude who's descended from a treant, which are giant tree monsters, but that doesn't really matter because we don't actually get the dude's name. We just know that he's a pretty boy with a flower in his mouth. Can't really describe him any more than that. None of these characters seem to matter. But before the battle even begins, Yukito just gets the fuck out of there. He has no interest in fighting. He has an entirely different matter to deal with that he finds to be more important. So he scurries off and the rest are forced to fight on their own. This does not matter because Class D are a bunch of fodder with literally no names. We start off with Freya and Hyene basically slaughtering everyone with their fire and ice magic. And even Honey joins in and he reveals that he really is a descendant of Thor because he uses his lightning magic. Like, I did not expect him to have lightning abilities. Honestly, I just assumed Honey's entire ability was just him being able to grow to giant size, which is already powerful enough, but the fact that you're adding lightning involved, like, damn. Honey's way stronger than I thought he was. And we already know what Ryzen can do. He's a master swordsman. He just slices up a bunch of people. Class D then starts to freak out. That is when the treatant guy activates his ability, because they're in the botany class, and he activates the poison plants, and he basically floods the area in poison spores to kill everyone off. So Class S covers their mouths, trying not to breathe in the poison gas. That's when Makoto then asked Ryzen just to suck it all up. Obviously, he considered her to be insane, but then she points out that you're dead, it's not going to kill you, and he's like, oh yeah! So he sucks up the entire poison gas, which is insane. He then falls over in pain and suffers because Makoto forgot to mention that, you know, he can still feel the effects of the poison, it just won't kill him again. Because once again, Makoto's a psychopath. She then gets offended that her new puppet got hurt. Everyone points out that that's because of her. She's the one who did it. She's the one who ordered him to suck up the poison gas. But, you know, semantics, I suppose. Crazy bitch is a crazy bitch. So, what are you gonna do? We see where Yamato ran off to. He ran to Deadrock's Chapel of Love and Death, which, when you explain where this place is, it's weird that he would come here, because he's literally smack dab in the middle of enemy territory, but apparently no one's gonna be around at the moment. It's a very weird decision to make, either way. But yeah, he has one of Maxwell's backup eyes, and he's using it to spy through Maxwell's currently using eyes, because they're currently having a staff meeting. So all the teachers are there, and apparently there are 4 main teachers that have to be taken out before you can take out God. Baltagor, who's descended from a kraken, He apparently runs the seas around Deadrock. And since the school, I'm going to assume he's basically like a gym teacher kind of thing, involving swimming and such. I'm just going to take a guess on that, because these are all teachers after all. Lilith, who's descended from the succubus, territory she runs is literally the chapel that Chiki's in right now, which is once again kind of weird that he's in enemy territory and says he won't be discovered there. Like, I don't get the logic behind it, but alright. Luzin, a descendant of Mephisto, a demon, and he's apparently in charge of the death area, which I don't even know what the fuck that even means. I can't even imagine what is a death area. I would understand torture area or sacrificial area or maybe even like sentencing area where you execute prisoners, but just straight up death. Like, what does that entail? What's the point? I mean, you're allowed to kill anyone anywhere anyway, so what does a death area even mean? The whole school's a death area. Hell, the whole underworld is a death area. I don't get it, but alright. And then finally, there's Bren, who's a descendant from a giant. He's also the vice principal of the entire school. And based on how the meeting is going, he seems to run the day-to-day operations while the principal god isn't around. Or even when he is around, I'm assuming. But currently, they're discussing the new recruits of Class F, for the simple fact that Class F has already killed 2 students and also the head chef of the cafeteria on their first day. So they're seen as troublemakers. And so Byrne is concerned that these might be a problem for the school if they don't take care of it right now. But that's when the other teachers point out that people die all the time, they kill each other all the time, that's not a big deal. It's just a couple students, it's not the entire classroom. That is until we flip over to the fight between Class D and F, where Class D is completely decimated. Yeah, the only one left is the flower guy, and they wiped out the rest of Class D, like it was in complete massacre on day 2. On day 2, Class F wiped out all of Class D. So, yeah, no, they just made themselves the enemies of basically the entire school. Makoto then decides to finish the job by turning all of Class D into zombies, and then have them devour the plant guy alive. God, of course, appears right in the middle of the teachers' meeting. Everyone is either scared of him or praising him because, you know, he's God. Yakuto is completely consumed with hatred as we get to see a flashback of him as a child, covered in most likely the blood of his family, as God probably destroyed their entire village. Which, yeah, I assume this earlier on that God killed off all the other dragons and why Yakuto is the last of his kind. Apparently God was listening in this entire conversation because he points over to Maxwell and says, "Isn't Class F under your command?" And of course Maxwell is doing his job as his zombie. To basically say, yeah, they're a bunch of problem children. It's a difficult year for me. God then walks over to him, looks through Maxwell's eyes, most likely is able to see Yakuto on the other end, and just fucking gouges out Maxwell's eyes. Yakuto, as you can imagine, freaks the fuck out because now he's afraid God's gonna come after him. Kinda tries to run, but stumbles, falls over. That's when the black cat appears, grabs Yakuto's arm, looks at this weird blackish dark pattern on it, and says it's spread pretty far, and that he doesn't have much time left. So most likely before, the black cat wasn't interested that he was a black dragon. What she was interested in was she can most likely sense whatever's killing Yakuto. I'm going to assume it's some kind of curse, because she's a black cat, so she most likely is involved with witchcraft. And I can't imagine she's going to try to save Yakuto, because the people in this place are all psychopaths. They don't give a shit about each other. What most likely will happen is she's just interested in the curse, and most likely wants to know how to do it herself. What I'm saying is, most likely her main interest is probably curses. And the one that's on Yakuto is most likely a very powerful one that she's very interested in. Honestly, another great chapter. I'm really glad that a lot of my predictions have been right so far. I'm hoping my one about the black cat and curses is also right. That'd be really cool. But hey, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, give a thumbs up so you enjoy more Deadrock and other amazing things. Thank you and have a great day.